Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Perfectly Twisted. It's Nicole, and Dave is here. How are you doing, Dave?
You know what? I'm doing good. I'm doing okay. And at the same time, me as the baseball fan that I try and throw in once in a while, I'm excited. I'm excited that my Dodgers are doing well, and I got to go to my first World Series game the other day, and just was one of those perfect days. You and I talk about the bad days and the good days. It was one of those where I had a perfect day last weekend, so it was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought about you. I was like, I knew you were having a good day. I was like, this
I
is
did.
this is a fantastic day for Dave.
It was.
I
It
love
was. It
that.
was a perfect
But
day.
how about that fan trying to rip the ball out of Mookie's mitt? Like, what was that? Like, I don't know. That was appalling. People are so
There is some
bottom of
crazy,
the
like New
barrel.
York. You and I both love New York, but New York has a rap for a reason. I mean, that's one of those things. They ran this special on the big video board about Freddie Freeman, about his mother passing away at 10 years old, and how his son was paralyzed and he's trying to make a comeback. And then the crowd's booing and yelling Freddie afterwards. I mean, it was like the most. If you didn't watch that and have tears running down your face, I don't know what to say. But people in New York did not hesitate to jump on him. I was like, all these bad things that just happened to this guy, but because he's wearing a Dodger uniform, and I'm like, it's New York,
I
it's
mean,
it's
it's
different.
a sign of the times, unfortunately, it seems to be. So
It's different for sure.
very, very
Yeah.
strange. Well, we've got an
It-
amazing guest today. She has been in the game forever, for a long time. Well, she's not that old, so but she's most of her life. I mean, in 1998, she was awarded the star for best performance by a young actress in a comedy. She was on the 21 Hottest Stars Under 21 in Teen People. GQ named her one of the hottest stars to watch in 1997. I mean, these are like huge accomplishments for a young lady. She has an extensive resume, but most of you will know her from Topanga, right, from Boy Meets World.
yeah.
So let's introduce Miss Danielle Fishel. Oh, and she's my fellow Pink Warrior. Let me not forget.
Love it.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
How
How
are
are you?
you? I'm good. It's so great to see your face. We have been texting, but it's so nice to see your face.
Same. And you look exactly the same.
Oh.
She looks like a kid, doesn't she? Oh my gosh.
Oh, you're very sweet. But
No,
no,
you do.
I'm like, oh, is it time for a facelift? What's
No.
happening? Oh.
It's all falling.
It's
It
just
does.
everything's falling. Yeah, it's just age and gravity. What's
Yes. Yes. So how are the main question, how are you doing? I
I'm
mean,
doing well. I'm doing well. As you know, once you are diagnosed with cancer, it feels like a never-ending road of doctor's appointments and numbers and treatment options and discussions and thoughts. And so I'm still on that roller coaster. I'm actually slated now, as of yesterday, to start radiation on Monday.
okay.
And so I'll be doing 20 days of radiation, so 5 days a week, Monday through Friday for 4 weeks. The first 15 rounds of radiation are going to be whole breast radiation, and then the last 5 are going to be targeted to my specific quadrant where my cancer was. And yeah, it's I don't know exactly what to expect. I know I've read a bunch of different side effects people have. Some people have a pretty easy experience with it, and some people end up with like 3rd-degree burns. So I think it's just, every person reacts differently. Every cancer journey is different.
So different. I know I'm meeting with a radiologist on the 7th,
Are
so
you?
I'm
Okay.
getting in that boat with you.
All right.
I'll be calling you to ask you, and the same, I've heard so many different, from people being deformed from
Yep.
it, to people going,
Yeah.
"Oh, I got rid of my scars. It was amazing." Like,
Yeah.
so different ends of the spectrum, so it's kinda horrifying. I'm kind
It
of
is.
scared to
And
death
and
of it.
truly every doctor you talk to even will give you different, like one doctor I met with said your scar, it's going to make your scar go away. And if you ever wanted a breast lift, this breast is going to be lifted. And so at some point you may want to have your other breast match this one because this one's going to be higher and tighter. And then I said that to another doctor and they were like, no, that doesn't really happen. And I was like, oh,
Great.
okay. So yeah, it's just, and that was kind of the experience I had from the beginning. Is you talk to different doctors and they all, and to some degree you want that. They're all individual brains with their own expertise and their own, you don't want like groupthink, but also sometimes you're hoping for some consistency just to feel like you have I guess possibly it's a way of feeling like we have some sort of control in a situation we have zero control in.
Correct. Or even some kind of expectation, right? Like,
Yes.
okay, I can brace myself for this. But I'm with you. I like the different, the varying opinions because I always
Yeah.
cling to the one that was the easiest.
Yeah.
I always cling to that one. And I'm like, if they say it and this has happened before, then this can happen for me. So
Yes.
yeah, I do that. But okay, I know we both get asked about cancer all the time. So let's
Yeah.
talk about fun stuff today.
Okay.
let's we wish you the best and we know
Thank
you're going
you.
to do great. And I will be in touch with you about it
Yes,
for sure.
please. We can I will have had at least a week under my belt by the time you have your first meeting. So
Don't you think that it feels so like committal, like every single day? I was reading that too. Every single day except the weekends because they're closed.
yeah.
You have to be there. I'm like,
And
so
mine are
every
at
single day.
7 a.m.
Unbelievable, right?
7 a.m. But the good news is the entire treatment from the time they say you walk in the door till the time you are dressed and walking out the door is 30 minutes. So,
That's easy. Yeah,
that's
you can do
not,
that.
at least it's not like a whole day event. And I looked at it like a workout. I'm like, listen, I'm going to dread this. Let's do it at 7 a.m. and get it over with. So by
Yeah.
7:30, I can actually have like the rest of my day to do other
Free.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, good way of looking at it. Good way of looking at it. And you can beat traffic. You can hopefully avoid traffic in this
Exactly.
LA city. But so I know that you started in the industry super young, and I know that your mom became your manager, which I can relate to you on so many levels with this. Like my mom wanted to be my manager, but we
Mhm.
just didn't have that kind of relationship. So I'm always super envious when I see other people who the momager thing worked out because it seems to me like the ideal team. Like
Yeah. I
mom and
mean,
daughter, let's go.
it was. And I guess the difference is my mom had zero experience in the entertainment industry. When we say she was my manager, it basically meant she fielded all the phone calls because I was a minor and obviously wasn't taking those phone calls. And she also managed all my money. Like she had the book and she made sure people got paid when they needed to get paid. And but she wasn't out there getting me work. She wasn't in any way trying to get me auditions, or she was basically fielding phone calls and the very active person in my day-to-day life. She was taking me to set, she was taking me home from set, she was on set with me. So in a lot of ways she was a manager, but in a lot of other ways like she didn't do any of the getting work part, which made our relationship great because I didn't have to rely on her for like why am I not auditioning for that. Like I had a person for that, I had an agent for that, and so the rest of the time she was just my mom
Mom.
and we had a great
Yeah,
relationship.
basically that's what you have to do as a parent if you commit to letting your child get in this industry, right? Those are the things you have to do.
Correct.
Yeah, like I didn't see eye to eye with my mom on a lot of things, so I couldn't figure out how it would be a good working relationship. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
I was
that
like,
no,
"You pick
that's
your
not
own
a good
opinions
idea.
on almost everything. I see the way you run the household. I'm
Right.
I'm
Right.
not so sure this is gonna work out for us, but
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have been good. You made the right choice there.
yeah, I thought so." Um, and then so you started at 10, right? Were you 10 years old or were
Yeah.
you younger at 10?
I was
Yeah.
10. Yeah, I was 10 when I first, and I had been asking to do it for over a year. Both my parents had nothing to do with the entertainment industry. They knew nothing about it except the horror stories. They had heard all the bad stories. And so they also just thought like, what, she doesn't know anything about this. Why does she keep saying she wants to do this? Like she'll change her mind. And in 2 months, she'll say she wants to do something else and we can move past this. And then after a full year of me being like, no, please let me get an agent. Let me audition. I want to be an actor. My parents were like, okay. I mean, truly their conversation was, all right, let's put in a little bit of effort. It won't go anywhere. And then we've at least tried. She'll stop hounding us. And so my mom took pictures of me with a film camera and she bought a book that was basically like, so you want to be an actor for dummies. And they had a list of agents' addresses. And it was like, here, if you want to get into an agency, you have to send photos of yourself to these addresses. And so she cold mailed photos of me that she took to these different agencies saying, my daughter is interested in getting into the entertainment industry. She wants to be an actor. Here's photos of her. And we heard back from like 8 people. And we took meetings with all of them. We went to the meetings. I ended up signing with an agent, and then I booked my first audition.
I love
And
that. That's
my
when you
parents were
could
like,
do that.
"Ugh." Exactly.
That's when you could do that.
In the
Yeah.
90s, as a 10-year-old, when the pool of people working were very small, it was much easier.
Well, you were able to be seen easier. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, yeah, because there wasn't just so much. I love that. I just love it because it's what you were meant to be doing. I mean, I
Yeah.
always say that about myself. People say, "Well, what else would you have done?" I was like, "I don't know. Don't ask me that because I never got to stop to
Right.
think about that." It's just
Yeah.
where we went.
Absolutely. From the time I was young, it just always was, it always called to me. And then, you know, after making that transition from child actor into adult actor is really difficult. And there was then a period of time in my mid-20s where I was like, oh man, I'm not working. I'm not getting work. I'm not even getting auditions. What am I going to do? And so at 27, I decided to go to college. And I was like, I need to figure something out. And I went to college at 27 and figured out very quickly that I loved psychology and I loved studying psychology. And I got a bachelor's degree in psychology and had been accepted to Chapman University to get my master's. I was going to be a marriage and family therapist when the call for Girl Meets World came about. And it was like, wow, okay. I guess I'm back in it. And then I put my master's degree on hold, went and did Girl Meets World. And that's when I got the opportunity to direct. And now I've been a full-time director since 2017.
This is unbelievable because at first when you said I decided to go back to college and I realized I thought you were going to say acting.
No, I loved it. I was 100% committed. I'm going to be a marriage and family therapist. And it is funny because I do tell people, it always makes me feel like I feel like a buzzkill when I say it. But I do think it's really important when young people ask me, what's your best advice? There's a feeling of desperation I had not knowing what my plan B was. And I think that desperation, when you're working, you don't have it. You're like, you're a hot commodity. It's easy to say no to things. Saying no to things sometimes makes them want you even more and you get more opportunities. And then if the iron cools down and you're not working as much, you kind of become, well, why aren't other people hiring her? And it's harder to work. And then you go into auditions with a desperation of, I need this job. I need to work. And I don't think that helps. That energy is just not good for anything. And once I knew I had something I loved that I could go do, like, oh, I am going to be just as happy as a marriage and family therapist as I am going to be as an actor, I lost that desperation. I knew what else I could do. So one of my big pieces of advice to people is, don't narrow your focus. Know you love this. Continue to pursue this. Don't ever give up your dream, but also keep your options open because you might find something else that you love and also just makes you like a more well-rounded individual anyway. I think it's cool that I can talk about psychology with people and at some point I may want to get my master's degree and then I'll have that whole side of my personality that no one knows about. So I just think like knowing what else you love gives you a freedom and lets you let go of some of that, like, I have to have this.
And isn't that life, right? Like when
Yep.
you're looking for something, it's not when you find it. It's when you are happy in your now, in your moment, and you're content. That's when
Yes.
everything comes along.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
I love
right.
that. I love that. Can you imagine you being a marriage counselor and and the couple, Dave, can you imagine you and your wife going for marriage counseling and she's the counselor? And you're like,
No.
okay, my childhood crush.
Yeah, no,
Now
not
you
even.
tell me about how bad my marriage sucks.
Yeah, no, not even just that. I was just thinking that when that show started, and everyone that watched that show, and it's very popular in Boy Meets World, they're going, that girl is so cute, and she has that magnetic personality, and she was you're obviously, you could see why you were successful. You could see why Nicole was successful, but I
Thank
couldn't
you.
take it seriously. Like if I'm going to marriage counseling, going, are you effing kidding me right now? This kid's going to solve our problems. I hate to say it. I
Listen, you
wouldn't be able
can't
to
lie
do
to
it.
Topanga. You're not allowed to lie
Yeah,
to. So at least
I know.
I think I'd get honest answers. I think people would be truthful with me.
But in my
Well, I
head
think
is
the
would be
women would respond amazingly. Like the women would be
yeah.
like, "Oh my God, it's Topanga. Let me spill my guts. It's
Ah,
Yeah.
Danielle. I can trust her." Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to say your real name 100 times to me before I took it seriously. No offense, but I'd be like, this girl's 12 years old. She's gonna solve our problems.
Oh, that's so funny. I love it. I love it.
yeah.
That is funny.
And you know what? There's no other industry like acting to have enough free time to find out what it is you're also passionate
I
about.
know,
Let's be
right? With
honest,
all
right?
that free time we have,
Oh,
take up a hobby.
yeah. Find out what else is out there. So
Yeah.
with directing, I love that aspect too, because you're still directing. Everybody
Yeah.
like, if you don't know, now you know. She directs a lot of the only sitcoms that are even still on TV, which is so fun.
Yes.
I wish they would make more of a comeback.
I know. I think we're on a good run right now. I think there's more in development. I think we're about to see a few more of them. The ones that are out there are doing very well. So I'm hoping to be a part of the revival.
Yeah, I love that. Good for you. Because I was just talking about that with somebody too. I think that the way that those shows move is so good with how people's attention span is so short these days,
Yep.
right? So that fast pace, quick wit, almost live feeling, I think
Yes.
is it's like time for it again. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's also a levity to multi-camera, and the world is so dark sometimes, and and I think people have really reached a limit with the amount of like drama they want in their day-to-day life and the amount of drama they want to watch on their TV. And so I think definitely more and more people are going to their TV for an escape and something lighter and positive, and there's nothing like multicam for that.
Yes. Without a doubt, without it. How did you so did you go in the booth a lot when you were doing Boy Meets World? Or like how did you realize, okay, because it can seem overwhelming. If anybody that doesn't know, you go into this big like trailer booth and it's got all the camera angles and there's just a lot going on in there. It's like a newsroom kind of.
Yeah.
And it can be super overwhelming. So what did you go in there and just like fall in love with it, or walk me down that?
No, on the whole time we were on Boy Meets World, I never once thought I want to be a director ever. I never thought of it. And part of that is because we did have a few women directors, but not many. I think the majority of my directors were men. And so I think in my mind, there was a part of me that just thought like, men are directors. And I knew it was possible to be a woman and to be a director, but it wasn't what I saw a lot of. And then when I got to Girl Meets World in 2014, Ben Savage asked to direct, and we had a favored nations contract, which for those of you who don't know, that means anything one person gets, the other person is entitled to as well. And Ben wanted to direct an episode. And so next thing I knew, they were like, hey, by the way, you get to direct an episode. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I want to take on that challenge. And the thing I knew for sure I was going to love and be good at was working with the actors and blocking. I was already working with our young actors on Girl Meets World as if I were a director, just because a lot of the directors were very camera focused. They weren't actor directors. They were directors who had spent a lot of time with cameras, and they knew camera, but they didn't necessarily know how to speak actor. And so we had, 12-year-old kids, 11, 12-year-old kids, and even younger, who had no idea what was happening in the script, had no idea why their character was going on the journey they were going on, had no idea why something was funny, had no idea why something was supposed to be sad. And no one was working on those things with them. And I was then finding myself going, do you know why you're saying this? Do you know why you're doing this? Let's talk about it. And so I was already kind of doing those things. So I knew I was going to love that part of it, but I had no idea if I was going to be able to pick up camera. I had never thought of it. And so while I was on Girl Meets World, I started shadowing the directors we were having, come in. And I was asking everybody, how do you make a shot list? How do you decide? And then you also, directing is a producer's medium. So my job is to bring to life the vision of the producer. And so you get to learn what they really like. Do they like singles? Do they like, two shots? Do they like clean singles? Do they like dirties? Do they like overs? And once you learn that, you can pretty much become like a perfect director for them. And then you have to learn it for every new show you go to. But once I started on Girl Meets World, I ended up doing 4 episodes by the time Girl Meets World ended. And then it still was really hard for anybody to take me seriously. They were like, yeah, you directed a home game. It's your show. No one's going to let you fail. And so I kept shadowing. I kept taking meeting after meeting after meeting. And after about like 2 years of no one hiring me and having already, shadowed a bunch and directed 4 episodes. One guy, a guy named Mark Reisman, who was doing a show called Sydney to the Max for Disney Channel, had like a 2-hour-long meeting with me. He called Michael Jacobs. He called Frank Pace, who was the UPM on Girl Meets World. And he was like, tell me everything. Can she really do this? Or was it a vanity title? And they gave me a glowing recommendation. And Mark decided to take a chance on me. He said, I hate to fly. He was perfectly honest. He's like, I'm going to be honest. I'm very nervous. If it were up to me, I would hire people who had tons of experience. This is my baby. I've only been given 13 episodes. But I'm going to let you direct one. And then my Disney Channel rep, who was repping that show, said, it's not fair to give a new director only one episode to learn when you walk onto a new set, and you have to learn the politics, and you have to learn the people, and you have to learn all these things. If you really want to give somebody a shot to see what they're capable of, give them 2 episodes and give them 2 episodes back to back, where they get 2 full weeks of showing you what they're capable of, and you can see growth from episode 1 to episode 2. And he said, okay. And he gave me 2 episodes in his first 13. And I ended up doing like 18 episodes of that show by the time their 3 seasons were over. And after that, I was just off to the races. Like, then word spreads that I know what I'm doing, and I'm good with actors, and I'm good with camera. And, I still have a lot to learn, but I've almost directed my 50th episode now at this point since 2017.
Oh, I love that. I love that. You know what I hate about it is was this a vanity credit?
Yeah.
Because I bet nobody said that to Ben or about Ben. Right?
You're probably right. They're definitely, I mean, it's possible though that it's an actor stigma more than a woman stigma, because there are a lot of actors that at a certain point after they've been on a show for a long time go, hey, let me direct one. And they're not looking at it as being a career change. They just want to have the name on their resume, to have the extra money for that week. And they don't necessarily like really dive in. And so, yes, it's possible that it was misogyny, but it's also possible it's actor stigma. Like, oh, every actor wants to be a director, but can they really do it? So, yeah, it was hard, but I'm glad I persevered, because I absolutely love it.
It's funny that some of the things you said, because I remember being on Charles in Charge, and we maybe had 2 female directors.
Yep.
And I remember them being the only ones that would work with us as actors, really. They were the only ones. And I'll tell you what, the star of that show hated it. He hated when somebody would come in and give acting critique, and he hated, first of all, that there would be a female director, and then would throw a fit when they wanted to talk about scenes and acting and that sort of thing, that they were wasting time, and let's get on with this, and what's the blocking. And it just, all of that you were saying, just like,
oh wow,
had made me have all these memories of that. And us kids loved it when there was a female director, because we got to be heard, we got to be seen, we got to talk,
well,
we had to say.
It's so interesting, because most actors don't want to feel like a puppet. They want someone to say, what do we think is best here? Let's try different things. Like, the goal should be on a collaborative project that we're all working toward finding the best of the best in every moment. What's the most real? What's the most funny? And how can we get there together? And the director and the actor kind of work hand in hand. I've actually never met an actor on multicams that I've been directing on who hasn't said to me, oh, it's so nice to have an actor director in here who can actually talk about acting with me, or who can answer a question like, why am I saying this right now? Like, this doesn't, based on this, and this that happened previously, why would I say this here? And then as the director who's also been an actor go, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about why your character's on this journey. So yeah, that sounds insane. I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
No, please. That was just like part of, it all went hand in hand on what a messed up set that was. But I also think that maybe, and I'm not saying we didn't have any good male directors that worked with us. It's just that the females stood out the most. But do you think that maybe directors, when they go on a camera show like that they're more concerned about, like you said, figuring out like the political side of it and what the production wants, and then they're just like, okay, these actors know these roles, and this is what they do every day, I'll let them do their thing, and they worry more about getting the right camera shots?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everyone will default to what's easiest for them. And for a lot of the directors who've never been an actor, they don't know how to talk about acting with someone. They don't know actually how to coax performance out of somebody. And the only way they could know how to do it is maybe by giving a line reading. And you don't even have to be a director to know actors don't love line readings. And so they just kind of don't participate in it. And they assume the producer will give you that note, or the producer will give the dialogue coach that note. And the dialogue coach will work on that. And me, not me, Danielle, but me, whoever this director is that maybe has been doing it for a really long time. I mean, I you know, there is nothing wrong with being in your 70s or 80s and still working. But a lot of the directors I worked with were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, had been doing it for 40 some odd years. And to them, it was very rote. They could come in, bada bing, bada boom, you're on camera A, you're on camera X, we got a 2-shot here, we get a master, up, and we're out of the scene. And they're just trying to get their day done. They're not necessarily thinking about product and output and what are we really making here and how can we make this feel collaborative. They're just there to get it done. It's one of the reasons I think having new young people come into the industry is so beneficial, because there's an energy and a life and a desire to care about the project that maybe isn't there when you're been doing it for 50 years and you're on your 3,000th episode.
Right. And you're so close to it. You don't step back and young people come in with fresh eyes and fresh
Yes.
perspective. I agree with that.
Yes.
I so agree with that. So how many shows are there really? Because I'm not even aware. How many shows are on the air that are sitcom style like that right now?
Oh gosh, I don't really know. I mean, with streaming and stuff, it's hard to pick. But I know, NBC has at least 4 multicams on the air. Disney Channel has a few in production right now, and then a few in development. ABC's got a couple. Tim Allen has a new show coming out called Shifting Gears, and there's some stuff for streaming. So I don't know exactly how many there are, but we need more. And I know,
Yeah.
I do know of some that are in development that are waiting to get the green light. And if they do, and then they start production next year, I'm hoping next year is going to feel like a bit of a multicam boom.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'd be so excited for that. Is
Yes.
multicam like your thing? Have you done film also? Like
I did
single
direct a
camera?
film.
Okay,
I
wanna
did.
hear.
I directed a film for Tubi called Classmates last year. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. We shot a full length feature in 13 days, and we were doing so many pages a day, and there were stunts. And even though a lot of it took place on a college campus, so it was technically like one location, it was a bunch of different locations on that college campus. And so we were moving and not having a ton of time for setups, practically zero time for rehearsal. Thankfully, all of the actors came so prepared and they were so wonderful. And so we didn't have to spend a bunch of time making sure they got lines right. They always knew their lines, but it would have been nice if you have more time to give people rehearsals. That's always nice. So I can't say I loved it. It's growing up on a multicam. It's just, for me, it's where I feel the most at home. It's where I feel the happiest. It's the medium I'm the most comfortable in. So I'm open to doing it again. But if I had my druthers, I would stick with multicam.
Yeah. I totally feel you on that. It's
Yeah.
crazy how quickly they shoot these films. What used to take 4 weeks and you thought that was a long time.
Right.
They have now condensed way down. So I feel really bad for directors when actors show up and they don't know their dialogue. Like
Mhm.
that's so bad. Everybody, you really have to grab your job and know the assignment to make
Yeah.
those kinds of schedules work.
Yes, and thankfully I had amazing actors, and they literally did that every day. They saw the schedule when it came out and they were like, "Oh, we're not going to have any time, are we?" It was like, "No, we're not." And they're like, "Okay, I got to make sure every single night I'm reading my lines for the next day and I know them." And they're the reason that movie turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, that seems rough.
It was rough.
That seems like a rough directorial job.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it really does.
And
Oh,
having
I
2
miss
small kids, multicam schedule is just ideal because I get to see them every morning when they wake up before, I get to see them before they go to school. I'm oftentimes home around the same time they come home from school. At the very least, I'm home for dinner most nights. So multicam with 2 small kids it's kind of a dream scenario.
I think multicam, if you want any kind of life at all, is the
Correct.
way to go, right?
No,
Yeah.
I know. We got people, you
Controlled
got to start
environment.
watching multicams. We need
Yes.
more of those.
Bring it, because it's like it's a controlled environment. You're going to the same place every day, so the logistics of it is fantastic. You know where you're going, you know what to expect, and yeah, it's sort of the closest thing to a 9 to 5 that you can get in this industry.
Yes,
It really,
exactly.
yeah. Unless you're a kid, right? How about that? How about having to do set school, being there before everybody else, and then staying
Oh,
later than everybody else? That's
I
the
know
only
that was honestly that was kind of a nightmare.
yeah.
It's like 7:30 start for you, 9 a.m. on set, and then everyone else is done at 3, and you have to still do 2 more hours. It's like,
Yeah. Yes, but we lived. We made
we
it
did,
through.
we did it.
We did. We
Dan-
absolutely did.
Danielle, just curious, what was the best and worst part about being a childhood actor?
Oh man. The best part was absolutely loving my job. I loved working with my cast. I was on I was very lucky to be on a set with cast members I adored. And so I looked forward to going to work every single day. And that didn't mean that there weren't hardships or that there weren't times when I, felt so stressed I burst into tears, because there were those moments too. But the cast members that I worked with, especially that I was also in school with, were my best friends, and I looked forward to it. So that was fun. Also, the other best part of it was I made the choice with my parents very early on that I wasn't going to do exclusive set school. I was going to go back and forth. So every hiatus week, I went back to my regular high school or junior high school. And that meant I got to go to every school dance. I got to go to every high school football game. All of my best friends, still to this day, are people I met in 6th and 7th grade at my school. All of my core group of friends was never actors from the entertainment industry other than my castmates, but they were friends from high school, and I felt very normal. Like I had a pretty normal life. So the best part for me was that my family and the people who ran my show made sure I got to have the best of both worlds. And I don't really feel like I missed out too terribly on being a normal teen. That's the best part. The worst part is probably the amplification of what I think, every teenager deals with: insecurities. It's just a part of hormones and being a teenager and growing into who you're going to be as an adult. Having those insecurities while also being on television, and especially during the 90s, like the I've never had the waif body type. And so dealing with body image issues on TV in the 90s was the worst part, because it's just, I would have dealt with it even just in my normal high school, but to then do it and to be on TV and to have the public commenting on your body really ramps that up. That would be the worst part.
Yeah. How did
Yeah.
people treat you when you were in public? Like, as I said, you're one of those, and as I said, Nicole was the same thing, where you watch the show and you kind of feel like, well, I know her. I'm watching, them grow up. But when you're out in public, was there ever an issue where you didn't feel safe, or it wasn't always fun being you?
No, actually, I think one of the benefits of playing Topanga is that she's such a beloved character. The reaction to seeing me is always positive. People are always like, "Oh!" It's not like people are like, "I don't like you and I don't know why." It's like it's always a nice reaction. Of course, there were times I had a stalker in the 90s, a grown man who showed up at my junior high school trying to say he was there to pick me up. Like I had some of that scary stuff. And then there were, of course, people who had a hard time separating the TV show from reality. And so they would see me like holding hands with my high school boyfriend at City Walk, and they'd turn around and they'd be like, "What about Corey?" And I was like, "Oh, that's not real though." But that, I had a few of those moments, but generally my whole life, people have been incredibly kind when
Great.
they see me. And so I often thank my lucky stars that I didn't play some like evil character, because the reaction to me would probably be a whole lot different.
I love that. For people that don't know, Michael Jacobs created Boy Meets World. He also created Charles in Charge.
Yes.
And he brought me on Boy Meets World, and I did like this arc, and he ended up writing me out because he said I couldn't grasp what he wanted from me. And I was like, I don't get it, because I was supposed to be the daughter of the principal who came in and was like abusing her power, like flirting with the boys, but
Yeah.
making a lot of demands. I was like, there's nothing I do better. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is so my niche. And by like the third episode, he wrote me out. He was like, no, you're not giving me like what I need. And I'm like, you've known me since I was a
I
kid.
know.
You know what I bring. I don't understand the disconnect, but
Well, I don't know
I don't know.
how Michael was on Charles in Charge, but I know the way he was on Boy Meets World is Michael really did believe, for better or worse, there was a right way and a wrong way to do things, and his way was the right way, and there was very little room for input for you or act. He was big online readings. He would come in and go, "No, you're saying it like ba ba da da ba da da, and I want ba 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 ba." It's like, oh, okay, and would just tell you exactly how he wanted something said. And he used to stand in between the cameras. He didn't watch from Video Village. He didn't watch the monitors. He'd stand in between the cameras because he came from theater, so he watched everything like a play. And he'd just stand in between the cameras. And if something happened that he didn't like, he'd just go, "No." And then walk on and tell you what you did that was wrong and tell you the right way to do it, and then walk back off and give you another chance to do it his way. So, you know, that's
I
just a
didn't
very Michael thing. It obviously is not you.
well,
That
I
was
did not do it
him.
the way he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's 2 times I've been replaced. That was one. I wasn't replaced. He just wrote me out and was like, "This isn't working." And I think he did it to a couple other actors that he had brought in for this arc thing that he was doing. That and then I was hired to be in Starsky and Hutch, the movie.
Yeah.
And they had a table read, and I was in Hawaii shooting a Baywatch movie. And at the same, like simultaneously and randomly, I had run into Ben Stiller out at a club one night.
Yeah.
And he asked me for my phone number, and he was like wanting to take me out, and I turned him down. Like I blew him off.
Okay.
I know. So when I showed up to the table read, his face dropped. My whole entire spirit dropped. I
You're
was
like,
like,
oh,
oh my God. And I got the call the next day that he had no chemistry with me. And they hired somebody else. They hired a different
wow.
Baywatch actress, actually. And those are the 2 times that like I've been what I call
Let
like
go.
fired from a gig. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. The stories we have.
I know. It's not like for being unprofessional. It's just not being the woman that they wanted. Like, that I wasn't
Yep.
the cookie cutter person they wanted. I
Yep.
just, yeah, that's the industry we're in.
Yep. That's right.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So what's next? Do you have directing gigs like right now? Are you doing
Yes,
that or what?
I just finished doing 5 episodes in a row for Lopez versus Lopez on NBC. My episode actually airs this Friday, the next 5 starting this Friday. So I'm really excited about that. In December, I'm heading over to Shifting Gears with Tim Allen. I'm going to do an episode of that in December. And then, just doing my normal podcast. I have a hair care company, so I'm continuing to do that. And hopefully next season there will be more episodes of Lopez versus Lopez. And hopefully I'm still rooting for this multi-camera boom.
Yes, for sure. And anybody who hasn't seen Lopez versus Lopez, it's so good. So
It's
it
so
came like it
fun.
was created out of the pandemic, right? Like didn't the
Yes.
pandemic? Yeah.
Yeah, Debbie Wolf, creator and showrunner, saw George Lopez's daughter's TikToks. George had moved back in with Anne, his ex-wife, and Mayan during the pandemic because he's immunocompromised, and they were living under one roof, and Mayan was putting out these funny TikToks, and Debbie Wolf saw him and was like, there is a show there. And she reached out to Mayan and George and said, what if we create a show based on your dynamic? And it is such a good show. It's all very real, It's for me, it's hitting the perfect sitcom mark, which is hard laughs and very earnest emotion. and they're not sacrificing either. It's very real, it's very heartfelt, but they are getting consistent hard laughs, which is, if you can do that, it's kind of a, magic sauce.
Well, they've got
Can
that
I
funny bone.
Yeah.
Can I ask
That
you a quick
family.
question? Because Danielle, I'm not an actor, but I'm one of those people that loves TV. Number one,
Uh-huh.
I've watched Lopez versus Lopez now every season. I've seen every episode. I think this third
Oh,
season, honestly, is the best season
it's
they've had.
hands down the best. If you watched only a couple of episodes ever in season 1 or season 2, come back for season 3. It is absolutely, the work they are doing is far and away better than anything they've done before.
100% agree. And want to ask you, both, and Nicole, I don't know if you're a regular viewer of the show, but the kid on the show is a star. And so I was curious to
Yep.
know, as two people that were childhood stars, do you see what I see just as a viewer? Am I completely wrong on this? But I think that kid right there is amazing.
He is a superstar. He's incredible. He every single week nails it. Every single day, he's committed. He's funny. Behind the scenes, he's just a naturally funny kid. He's fun to be around. He takes direction well. He's sweet. He's never a problem. Literally, he's great, and he's got a huge future in front of him. He's a star. You're right. You can spot it. You may not be an actor, but you can
Yeah,
spot a
there you
star
go.
quality.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And I love seeing the Lopez family doing well because it's just so well deserved. I am a huge George Lopez fan.
Oh yeah.
Always have been. Like,
Me too.
yeah.
He is so generous and so thoughtful. And I've worked on, a lot of shows at this point. And sometimes that people like you because they tell you, hey, I like you. I like being around you. I think you're good at what you do. And other times you only know they like you because they keep bringing you back. But you're like, wow, otherwise I'm not really, you don't really tell me you're appreciative. You just keep hiring me. So you must like me. George is effusive with his praise. It's like, he never lets an opportunity go by that he doesn't say, I appreciate what you just did there. Thank you for that. He is the most he's just so generous. And he has bought me, he the first time I started working there, I wear a lot of vintage t-shirts, and he pays attention. He started with, what's that vintage t-shirt? What's that vintage t-shirt? And so every day it was a different conversation about the vintage t-shirt I was wearing. And then when I was finishing my episode there, in season 1, he bought me 3 incredible vintage t-shirts. Just had paid attention to what I liked, found like that. He's thoughtful and generous. And I didn't even talk about how incredibly talented he is on the show. So all around, he's a gem, and I'm lucky to work with them.
Love that. That's why he's always doing something fantastic. Because
Yep.
all of those things. He's all of those things.
Yes.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining us. This was such a
Thank
treat.
you.
It's so good to see your pretty face and to
Likewise.
see you just thriving and doing so well.
Likewise.
Tell me about your hair care line, because listen, you've always had the most gorgeous hair. So I'm sure everybody wants to know. Tell before you go anywhere, tell us about that.
Yes, I've had a hair care line since the end of 2019, called Be Free by Danielle Fishel, and I love it. It's I know clean beauty is a term people don't love anymore, but it is. It's clean beauty. It doesn't have sulfates or parabens or phthalates. We don't use any artificial fragrance. We do use essential oils, so there are some people who are allergic to essential oils. I'm very clear about that. All of our ingredients are listed on our website. All of the ingredients are listed on our bottle. In a time where something can say it's clean, and then you research it a little bit, and you can only find like a few ingredients they want to share with you. And we have a big transparency is big with me. So all of our ingredients are readily available. And yeah, we've got a full line of stuff. We've got shampoos and conditioners and hair masks and a detangler that's amazing, and a heat protectant that's incredible, and a dry shampoo and hairspray. We've got it all. And I absolutely love it. It is a very personal, there are literally 5 total people in the entire company. We do every single product goes through me first. We work directly with a lab. I tell them what I'm looking for. They create something, they send it to me. I research every single ingredient myself. If I don't like an ingredient in it, or I don't like something about the product, I take detailed notes. I send it back to the lab. We go back and forth until I think it's perfect and I'm ready to put my name on it and say, yes, this is something I use and something I believe in. And then it goes right to your door. So it's a small little passion project, because I truly, when I first found out I was pregnant, I had a very hard time finding products that I felt worked, but that also didn't have stuff I was worried about going to cause me harm. And I was like, if I am having a hard time finding something, I know other people might be as well. So I created the line, and I love it.
Oh, that's so cool. It sounds like such a fun job too.
It is.
You
It's
know?
fun. I'll
Yeah.
send you everything. I'll send you everything. You can try it. Tell me what you think.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My
Such a pleasure.
13-year-old will steal it all, just FYI.
Okay, great. I'll send
As
it to
you were
her.
talking as we were talking about all the ingredients, I was like, Keegan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send Keegan there because this is
Oh, I
all
love
she's
it.
gonna be all over it. But yeah, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
good luck with the radiation.
Thank you. We'll be in
You're
touch.
not gonna need it, but yeah, we'll stay in touch and let me know how it's going.
All right.
'Cause I'm scared to death. So
I know. Me too. Thank you so much.
we got this. We got this.
Bye, Dave. Nice to meet you
Bye-bye.
too.
Very nice meeting you.
Bye.
She was awesome. She was
She's
great.
great, right? What a
Yeah, she
beautiful,
is.
wow, what a beautiful soul.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really cool. That was a lot of fun. All right, I do have a question. I didn't want to ask a dumb question in front of both of you, so I'll just ask it in front of you.
what I'm here for.
Why does a successful TV show even change directors? Like, if it seems like you'd want the continuity of the same director every week, why would you change directors?
Huh. I think probably for a number of reasons. One, I don't think you want it to get stale. Two, you have to hire this. You should have asked her because there might be something that I don't
Okay.
even know about. But excuse me, but I think that it's you kind of have to. There's a union too,
Oh, really?
like but yeah, there's a DGA. So you have to I think you have to be
Rotate?
yeah, I think so. And again for different flavor, but I don't know. That's a good question.
Like, I always noticed it when I used to watch you do Charles in Charge. You'd have a different director all the time. It seemed
Yeah.
like, and I never understood. Like, you don't change the actors out. Why would you change the directors out? Like, you don't change writers out most of the time, right? It's the same
No.
people writing the show.
Yeah.
So I never understood it. Just sitting in a live studio audience, and I was just curious to know. Just I didn't understand it, and just like in the middle of a movie, you wouldn't change directors. It just seems odd to me.
Right. Now you've got me thinking. God damn you, Dave.
Good.
Damn it.
I'm not as dumb as people say I am. There you go. See.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one.
All right, yeah, I was just curious, and it's funny you bring up sitcoms. I like when I see sitcoms now, and I'm a huge sitcom fan. As you're saying, you're seeing less and less of them. That you're seeing the live studio audience in some of the shows coming back. Like, I don't know why it bothers me when it's not a live studio audience. And I know,
Yeah.
as you said, when you're talking about Dancing with the Stars, how it was at least it was in live time because it was a live show. That everyone I know who's gone to a sitcom taping recently says it's not 30 to 40 minutes. It is 5 hours, and people don't want to be there that long. It's different. Like when I used to watch you do Charles in Charge, you guys were done in 45 minutes. I saw Married with Children once, and outside of changing from the living room to the shoe store, that show was over in 30 minutes, and then you
Yeah.
move on. And but yeah, as someone who loves to see how things are made, it was kind of disappointing. What was the one that took a long time? I used to go to a bunch of different ones because tickets were free. Panorama City, you could go pick up tickets, in the mall. And
Yeah.
then what you want to go see? And I went to go see Perfect Strangers. Do you remember the TV show Perfect
Yeah,
Strangers?
of course. Yeah.
And that one was, I don't know what you used to record the show, but it was, they had to keep pulling the film out. And then it took like 3.5 hours. I was like, I'm never going to another show again. Like, I don't have 4 hours on,
Yeah.
whatever, Friday night to sit there and do this. There's other things I want to do. It's not worth my time. But that was completely different. Charles in Charge was a lot of fun. Married with Children was fun. When it became 4 or 5 hours to sit there is ridiculous.
It doesn't do anybody any good. The audience loses its energy. The
Yep.
joke isn't funny anymore after you've seen it a couple times. The actors vibe off that. The actors are sick of doing it over and over. So like on Charles in Charge, our first show, we would just run through it. Unless somebody really flubbed up a line, we would just keep going. The second show, possibly we would stop and start very little. And then if there were pickups, we called them, that needed to, there were just things that were glaring that needed to be redone, we would do it after the audience left.
Yeah.
And so we would do pickup shots. And that felt like a drag. Like if you had to stay behind for pickup shots, you were like, oh man. So yeah, it really loses something. It's like if you go to a live play and then they go, oh, wait. We're gonna do that part again. It doesn't have that same excitement.
understand. Yeah.
So Yeah, they've got to fix that part of it. They got to go
No,
back to the way it was. Yeah.
no, I understand. I understand. Let's get to your mailbag. We have people that want to ask you questions. Again, Nicole's mailbag, perfectlytwistedpod.com. Look at the mailbag at the top of the screen and go ahead and get your questions in, and we'll do everything we can to make sure they're read on the show. These 5 questions, they're from Mary. It says, Nicole, do you have a good memory? And we know you remember lines. Do you have a good memory?
No, not really. I mean, I have selective memory. I have
You've
very
lived such a
selective.
busy life that
I
I
know.
was like, do you, I mean, there are so many things that obviously we know your family is most important to you, but you've had so many experiences in life, more than most.
I've had a lot. I have a lot going on at all times, and also I'm somebody who really tries to always live in the now. I don't think back on things too much. Like I'm not like a big reminiscer.
Yeah.
So I tend to like out of sight, out of mind. Like people will bring up things, and maybe if I do remember, I'll be like, oh my gosh, if you hadn't said that, I would have never thought of that. And then other times people can bring things up, and I'm like, nope, no recollection, like whatsoever. No clue. No clue. So I'm always moving forward. I never really look back at stuff. So I tend to just keep going and not really look back. If I'm looking back, I'm like, what did I learn from this? And
Yeah.
so to answer your question, Mary, no, I have a shitty memory.
Next question is, Nicole, who's the most interesting person you've ever worked with?
Oh my gosh.
And that list
Ooh.
must be crazy.
Yeah, that's I mean, interesting can be interpreted in a number of ways.
That's true. That's
So
true.
I would say that Gary Busey was a very interesting
Oh,
person to work with. Um, Interesting as far as like life stories and like sharing. I really loved working with Ricardo Montalban. A lot of people don't get that, but to me, he had this like air about him, and he was like old Hollywood and very generous with his time and his stories. I really loved working with him. I thought that working with Candice Bergen was really kind of amazing. Daryl Hannah was a great one. She had just come off Splash. So working with her, I got to ask her all the questions, and she was
oh, that's
so
cool.
open about her experience on Splash. So most people are interesting. Most people
Yeah.
are very interesting. I
The
think it
funny
takes
thing
an
about
interesting
Ricardo
person.
is I'm sorry, say that again.
I think it takes an interesting person to like kind of be in this industry,
Yeah,
you know? Yeah.
I think you're right. What you said about Ricardo is the way he felt coming through the camera. Like
Yeah.
he felt like he had that kind of the electricity where you were like you were attached to him.
Yeah, he
That's
just was like he has a
yeah,
glow around him.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's rare in life when you meet somebody like that.
And
And you go that
very
person's different. Yeah,
humble, very friendly, very welcoming, but yes, definitely like up on a on a
yeah,
pedestal. Mhm.
absolutely. All right, Nicole, have you ever worked with someone who is a kiss ass to a producer or a director?
Yes. Too many to count.
I figured you're gonna say that.
Oh
I
my
imagine.
god. There was a lot of that. It's kind of interesting. Like I remember being on Charles in Charge, and certain actors would come in and like count how many lines they had of dialogue, and then they would either bitch or brag about it. And you were like, "What?"
Wow.
Like I never even thought to sit there when I got my script and count to see how many lines of dialogue I had,
Yeah.
and then and their parents were very involved in that as well. And it was always this thing, like this competition. And I just was like, you're missing like the whole point of,
Yeah.
storytelling.
That
Yeah.
would be a big turnoff for me, I think, if I
Oh,
worked with someone like that, that was
yeah.
counting lines,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
People
know?
do that. Hmm.
Wow. I believe it. I believe it. Fourth question, Nicole, would you rather hang out with someone who is type A or type B?
Oh, I guess type A. And it's really weird. So I'm a Capricorn with Aquarius. So I am somebody who's uber organized and on time, and like I'm
Yeah.
all those things, but I'm also wildly like what's the word when you do, like my mind is still gone a little bit. What I will just take off on a dime. Like if you were to say, "Hey, you want to go catch a flight this evening?" I'd be like, "Yeah, let's go." Spontaneous. I'm wildly spontaneous and like go with the flow. So I am such a like such a weird cross of I like everybody to be on time because I think that it's selfish to not think about other people's time and the value in that. But I also need for things to be flexible. Like like having kids teaches you that if you can't shift gears and pivot
Yeah.
really quickly, you're going to have a miserable time. So I'm both of those. So I guess it depends on the day, Mary. Depends on the day. If we have a schedule to stick to, I want the type A. If we're going on vacation, let's go with type B.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. All right, last question. Nicole, describe your perfect day, which is kind of funny. I just told you I had a perfect day the other day, which was, they're unique. So, what's your perfect day?
Wow. For me, it's just it sounds so corny, but it's when I'm with my kids. It's when
Fun.
my kids with no agenda, no schedule, just doing whatever we want when we feel like it. That's the perfect day for me. And we could be doing anything, we could be doing nothing, we could be doing everything. Um, Seeing them smiling and laughing and us joking and peeing ourselves laughing, that's my perfect day.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Mary, appreciate the questions again. Perfectlytwistedpod.com. Go to the top of the page and there's the mailbag, and we will get your questions on there. But I appreciate those as well. That was a fun show. I really had a good time. That was
Yeah,
cool.
Danielle was
Yeah,
fun. Yeah. What a great career and what a strong female for young women to look up to and aspire to be
exactly.
like just so strong. So love that. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mary, for your questions. I love the questions in the mailbag and get out there and vote. Vote, 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 vote. I hope you voted. So important, so important. And ladies, I hope this is not our last time being able to vote. So let's do it. Let's make our mark. And we will see you next week.